Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Nancy K. Coy Show. Appreciate you jumping in here. If you like this content, please be sure to go ahead and smash that little button. And if you like the content, please share it with other people because we really have an objective, and it is to move the needle from 3 to 5% of women businesses that get funded. Now, this episode is actually going to apply to both men and women, and I really think it's super important that we have a real, as they say, come to Jesus meeting. One thing that has come up over the last couple of weeks is startup founders that think that they really know about funding. Well, my philosophy to that is if you really, really knew about funding, you wouldn't be reaching out to people to talk about how to get your company funded. So I want to give you a little bit of some background. I have had probably no less than 10 phone calls in the last week with startup founders who've called and asked me if they can meet with me and talk about their business and getting it funded. And they'll get on a phone call and tell me all about their great business, which is fantastic. I've been there. But funding is a craft, and it's not something that you just want to be flippant about. And so often I have these founders that tell me, oh, I know exactly what to do, and I know exactly how to get my company funded. No, you don't. Reality is that 99% of businesses don't get funded. And when I get on the phone call with so many of these people, they tell me all of the great things that they're doing, and 3/4 of what they're saying is not going to get them funded. The 1%. Lenders, funding sources, small family offices, they're looking for the 1%, and they're looking for people that really know what they're doing. And I want to give you a metaphor because this week I have just gotten really frustrated with people that I'm like, oh, anyway, so I want to just kind of throw this out. For those of you who like sports, and I'm just going to use football as our example. If I'm a professional football player or I want to play in the NFL, and I was just to show up at training camp and walk onto a field, and I had never thrown a football in my life, what would happen? Do you think that those that would do that, which I don't think many people would be foolish enough to do that, they would be laughed at? Yet in the funding world, what happens is we have people that come up with a great idea for their business, and then they go out to the funding world and they start making phone calls and they start doing email campaigns, which are very ineffective. They have really done nothing to prepare, but they think that they have such an incredible product that that's going to carry them. It's not true. It's not going to carry them. There are so many businesses that never get funded because it really isn't about the product or service. It's about you. If you are pre-seed, pre-revenue, investors are buying you. They're not buying the product really at that point. Obviously they like what you're doing, but they're investing in you, and they want you to be able to carry the idea, the venture across the threshold. So I'm going to go back to the metaphor of sports. My youngest son was number 7 in Northern California for RBIs. He had a 393 batting average, and he went to a small Christian school. So it sounds maybe a little sexier than it really is. But reality is he was an incredibly, incredibly talented athlete. From the time he was barely able to walk, we started throwing balls to him because he just was enamored with a ball and couldn't wait to play baseball. Over the years, I put thousands of dollars into bats, baseballs, coaching, out of school sport coaching, where he would train and practice and practice and practice so that when he got on the field, he was not only proficient at his craft, but he was an incredible player. Well, what happens is throughout his life, his entire focus is baseball. That's all he really cared about. In fact, he had so many gals that wanted to date him. And I remember he got invited in one year to like 13 different proms. I would call the florist and she would say to me, she'd just answer the phone and she would say, what color is the dress? I mean, literally, it got kind of crazy. I finally just bought the tux. Why am I telling you this? Because he was so focused on his craft that he wouldn't date anybody. He wouldn't get serious about anybody because his whole position was, I am going to be the best baseball player that I absolutely can be, and I can't be distracted. Well, his senior year of high school, he was playing, his junior year was incredible. He had an incredible junior year in baseball. He was All-American. He was in 3 different sports, and he was playing basketball his senior year. And by this time, by the way, his coach, his actual high school coach, was a former pro player, played for the Oakland A's. So we really think that he's got a huge future in baseball. And it wasn't just me thinking this. This is countless people. Well, his senior year of high school, he was playing basketball. It was homecoming that year. They did basketball for homecoming. It was kind of crazy. And he was defending somebody, went up, I think, for a shot. I can't exactly remember, but he went down on his knee and completely destroyed his MCL and his ACL. His entire baseball career went out the window with that accident or that incident. It was devastating. I sat with that young man with tears rolling down the side of his cheeks for literally 3 days. I was crushed as a mother watching how hard he worked, how focused he was, so that when he got to the show, that he was the best he could be. And life happened. It was hard. It was devastating for all of us. And then he had to go through this horrific surgery, and the healing process was, I mean, it took a year. It was so difficult. Why am I telling you all this? Because as an athlete, he prepared over and over again. He was so proficient and he was so focused. And life still happened. But yet, in the funding world, we have people that show up and don't know a thing about funding their business. They have no clue. They just think that they have this product or service and that's going to carry them through. And that's absolutely wrong thinking. You have to train. You have to know what you're doing so that when you get to the show, you're not laughed at. This is why 99% of businesses are not funded, because you have founders that think they know how to play the game, and they really don't. So what am I trying? What am I trying to encourage you to do? I'm really trying to encourage you to get involved in an incubator. Take the time to understand the process. This is critical to your business and the longevity of your company. If you don't do the funding right from Jump Street, you could be putting, and probably are, your company in compromise for not only this round, but for future rounds. if you really care about the future of your business, your family, the time and energy that you're putting into getting your company to the next level, then educate yourself. And this isn't going on YouTube and listening to a bunch of people that just try to tell you what you want to hear. This is understanding the 12 steps, if you will, of funding success. Now, this is what the 1% do. The 1% that get funded, they know that there are certain things that you have to do to get your company funded and funded correctly. So, in this, there's so much that you can learn in a very, very, very short period of time. There's a lot of incubators out in space and market. Cana Global, we have an incredible one. It costs about as much as a MacBook. If you were to work with one of Gerald Duran, who actually is our managing member, who actually runs the incubator, if you were to work with him one-on-one, it would cost you about $80,000. But you can join an incubator class, understand those 12 steps, and now you're going to put your business on a solid footing so that when you get to the show, you're going to know how to answer the questions. You're going to know how to appropriately present your story. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today. I was in her office and she was telling me about a friend of hers that is looking to get her company funded. And just in the conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, please tell her, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. I mean, and I felt kind of, it's kind of like, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not trying to shoot her ideas down, but they would have stifled her so much. And time is money. So, doesn't have to be Cana Global. It can be a lot of different incubators out there, but spend the time to learn, because if you don't have cash flow and you don't have your business set up on a solid foundation, the likelihood of success is so, so small. The odds are so stacked against you. But if you follow and you do what the 1% do, you've got such a greater chance of success, and you've got such a greater opportunity in front of you to do the right things right. I hope this is helpful. I hope this story and this metaphor actually speak to you, and that you understand that pride goes before a fall. And sometimes it's good to just not be prideful and take the time, do yourself a huge favor, and invest in yourself, invest in your company. This doesn't take a lot of time. Over a 12-week period, I know with Cana, ours is like 12 weeks. It's 90 minutes it's twice a week. It's 90 minutes. Anyway, and then you're going to do some homework. The homework that you're doing is actually exactly what you're going to need to do to get your company funded. So anyway, little commercial here for Cana Global, because I do know how much this is going to change the trajectory of your future. And we genuinely care about you, your family, and your business overall. There's so doggone many good businesses that have such a massive future if the founders would just be open to learning how to get the company funded, how to get customers correctly, and do this right from a foundational perspective, so that your house is built on a solid concrete foundation versus a house built on sand. I hope this is helpful. I wish you a great rest of your day. I'll look forward to getting back together with you. Next Wednesday, I'm actually going to be out on vacation. So we're not going to do a show next week, but I'll be back the week after that. All right. Look forward to catching up with you then. Bye for now.